Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is the Butcher's Fresh Cuts coming at you live Wednesday morning, like we always do. Sorry, turning down the volume. Turning down the volume. Coming at you live like we do every Wednesday morning. We are a proud part of the Miller Park Minute Podcast Network. Got to give a big shout out to Eric Agnew over at the Miller Park Minute. He's coming in clutch every day, batting leadoff every day, starting your morning with the hottest, the best of the Brewers news and info. He dives into baseball topics around the entire Major League Baseball landscape, and he dives deep, big on the Brewers as he has been for years. And starting this year, he's been doing it daily and bringing it at you daily. And on Wednesdays, Butcher's Fresh Cuts, we come in and we dive in at a topic. What we do here is we'll take one of those topics, one of the hot topics in Brewers baseball specifically, and we'll chop it up. We'll throw it on my butcher's block. We'll chop it up. We'll dissect it. We'll get into the veiny nether regions of each cut, and we'll get in there and we'll dive into it and we'll analyze it and we'll talk stats. We'll talk numbers. We'll talk the nitty gritty and we'll learn more about this team as the season goes on, deeper and deeper. But today we're going to do something a little different than that. I know I said specifically we always talk Brewers, but this is involved with Brewers in that we are approaching. We are 1 month away actually from pool play for the World Baseball Classic, and the World Baseball Classic I think is something that is a highlight of world baseball altogether. I think it's something that everybody should tune in for. It's as exciting as the World Cup, it's exciting as the Olympics, and it's baseball's version. So what better than to bring the entire world in, face off on the world stage, have each country come in and try to face off and see who's the best, much like the World Cup. And baseball's a better sport in my opinion than soccer. And I like to see this, and I think and the best players go to their respective countries or countries that they have some sort of descent from, and they play and they face off against each other. And so let's get into it today. This is the fifth installment. This year, 2023, is the fifth installment of the World Baseball Classic. It started in 2006, and again happened in 2009, 13, 17, and again this year in 2023. It's typically held every 4 years or so. 2021, there was supposed to be an event, and it was called off due to the coronavirus pandemic. And it's going to be held this year. It's all together. It's all going. In 2006, Japan won the World Baseball Classic, the inaugural event. In 2009, they backed it up and they won again. In 13, the Dominican Republic came in very strong and won theirs, but in 17, the U.S. had theirs. We won the World Baseball Classic in a memorable fashion. We beat Puerto Rico. If anybody I'm sure you remember that game if you watched. It was memorable. It was as good as any World Series game I've seen in the 21st century, and that's why I think this is such an excellent event. It's the best talents, and some of those players who like dream matchups facing off against each other, and we'll talk about some of those as we go on. But like Mike Trout's going to face off against Shohei Ohtani presumably this year. That's something to write home about and beyond. Pool play begins, like I said, March 7th, a month from now at 10 p.m. Central Time. I'll give you Central Time because we're Brewers fans here. And with Cuba facing off against the Netherlands. 1 second, gotta get the tunes going up in here. See, I'm not the most technically savvy guy over here. Yeah, but pool play begins March 7th. This year, there's going to be 20 teams participating. That's going to be up from 16 in every previous year. Now, the games will be played in 4 separate locations. And like I said, pool play, there's going to be 4 pools, A, B, C, and D. Pool A consisting of Chinese Taipei, the Netherlands, Cuba, Italy, and Panama. They'll be competing at Intercontinental Baseball Stadium in Taiwan for their Pool A play. One more note, all 16 teams from last year are automatically in the tournament, like I mentioned. I didn't mention that before. Pool B, which is going to consist of Japan, Korea, Australia, China, and the Czech Republic. And they're going to square off at the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo. Pool C, which is going to consist of the USA, Mexico, Colombia, Canada, the Great Britain, and they will play their first round in Phoenix at Chase Field, where the Arizona Diamondbacks hold their home games. And Pool D will consist of Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Israel, and Nicaragua, and their first round of play will be in Miami at Lone Depot Park. It's really tough to analyze which pool is going to be the strongest out of these 4. They all have very top-heavy teams that I would say, and some very bottom-heavy teams. And with 20 teams in this year, you're going to have some teams that are going to be kind of scratching their way into this, and some teams have more major leaguers, of course, than others. Of course, USA is made up primarily of Major League Baseball players and some minor leaguers, and there were some college guys who have committed in years past. Um, so Pool A and B, the quarterfinals, then will be at the Tokyo Dome, and that'll be March 15th through the 18th. Pool C and D, the quarterfinals, will be at Lone Depot Park in Miami, and that'll be held March 19th and 20th. The semifinals and the championship will be in Miami at Lone Depot on the 21st of March. And so the teams that were added this year are Panama, the Czech Republic, Great Britain, and Nicaragua. They won the final 4 spots, and they faced off back in September and October of last season as the Major League Baseball season was winding down. These teams faced off in a qualifying tournament, and the teams that came out were Nicaragua, Panama, Czech Republic, and Great Britain. And of course, their major leaguers, their respective major leaguers, weren't able to play in those games, but that's they were playing in their big league clubs, making the big money at that point. Um, there will be, I know I talk about rule changes in Major League Baseball near constantly here. There will be no limits on shifting, and there will be no pitch clock in the World Baseball Classic this season. And with that, I would like to break down Team USA. I'm going to break down most of the rosters of these teams during this episode, but I really want to highlight Team USA because I think we may have the strongest roster, and heck, it's USA. We're going to break it down. Like I said, this is fantasy matchups. This is better than my Miller Park Minute Fantasy Baseball Tournament winning team this year. I mean, this is a better lineup. This is a better rotation than that. These are fantasy lineups. I mean, think of Dream Team, NBA, primetime Dream Team when you had Shaq and you had Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon, all these fantastic talents on the floor for the USA. This is that, and it's just about every 4 years minus a pandemic year mixed in there, and we get to see this happen, and it's going to be fantastic. And I believe Fox Sports has a deal this year to cover every game between their FS1, all their other respective networks. They're going to be able to cover all this. It's all going to be televised in one way or another, and I'll probably be hacking a lot of it, bootlegging a lot of it like I tend to do myself. But let's break down Team USA because this is must-see TV. Now, the team is managed by Mark DeRosa. He played for Team USA in 2009. He's been working for the MLB Network ever since he retired as a ball player in 2013. Our bench coach is another familiar name, Jerry Manuel. He managed 9 years in the big leagues. Another familiar name is our pitching coach, would-be Hall of Famer Andy Pettitte, famously pitched for the Yankees. Won a couple, one, two, three. He might have gotten 4. He might have gotten 4 rings with the Yankees. The guy's got a lot of hardware. Our hitting coach is none other than the kid. This is a heck of a hire, and really, as someone brought up at work today at a Habitat for Humanity job site, one of my excellent volunteers, he brought up, he's like, do these guys even really need a hitting coach? And especially Team USA, absolutely not. But it doesn't hurt to have the kid there to be managing your lineup, and that's Ken Griffey Jr. He played in the inaugural World Baseball Classic in 2006, and there's not much more you need to say about the kid. He's one of the greatest ball players of all time, and the greatest of my generation growing up as a kid. The bullpen coach is going to be Dave Righetti, another familiar name. He was the pitching coach for the, of course, World Series champion, 3-time Giants, 10, 12, and 14. He was their pitching coach at that point. So let's break down the roster. This amazing roster stacked with Hall of Fame and hardware-filled talent. They're led by team captain, Mr. America, Mike Trout. And that makes a lot of sense. It's Mike Trout. Of course, he's going to play for Team USA. He's going to be our center fielder. He's going to be the captain. He's going to be the centerpiece of this entire lineup. And the GM of USA Baseball, Tony Reagans, was the GM of the Angels when Mike Trout was drafted. So another little fun element, a fun fact connection there. Tony Reagans being the GM who drafted Trout. Third base, of course, is going to be the man, Nolan Arenado. There's no better man at the hot corner in all of baseball, and I would argue the entire world, and I think we'll see that in the Classic. Nolan Arenado playing third base, St. Louis Cardinal. He played in 17. He went 5 for 31 with a double and a homer in the 17 Classic. Although that 5 for 31 is not anything you really want to write home about. He had some very clutch and timely hitting in that Classic if you look back at some of the tape. Catchers, catcher, we're going to have JT Realmuto, the greatest backstop in all of baseball. There's no better guy you want to have back there. Um, uh, and there's all new catchers, I think, for this year. The Jonathan Lucroy caught in years past for the USA team. So JT Realmuto is first time in the World Baseball Classic, and he'll be heading up that backstop position. First base, one of our first basemen, Paul Goldschmidt. He's a member of the 17 championship team. My cat is in heat right now, so that's what that awful grueling noise is right now. So you know what? I'm going to take a moment before we talk about Goldie, so you don't have to listen to Miku. And I'm going to turn up this music here because you guys deserve much better than the awful sounds of Miku. It's Sumi. That's her name. Here we go. Getting back in. I do better when I got hip hop playing in the background. I like podcasting better when I got a beat. Okay, Paul Goldschmidt, member of the 17 championship team for the World Baseball Classic. Of course, he was the National League. He was the National League MVP last season. In 17, he went 1 for 13 with 13 walks. He backed up Eric Hosmer in the 17 edition. And this year, he's going to be starting. Eric Hosmer, not a better ball player anymore. For DH, we're going to have none other than the polar bear, Pete Alonso. He's a straight masher. He won 2 home run derbies in 3 years, of course. He owns the Mets club record already. He had 53 home runs in his rookie season. He's among league leaders in home runs and RBIs since he debuted in 2019. Pete Alonso, DH, there's no one better in the world than you would want in that spot than Pete Alonso. Left field, we got Kyle Schwarber, another just insane masher. He led the NL in 2022 with home runs with 46. He had 6 home runs between the National League Championship Series and the World Series. He was insane at the brightest stage. He hit 78 home runs in the last 2 years, slugging .525 with a 138 OPS plus. Once again, OPS plus is a stat where 100 is always league average. So the league average player, not Freddie Peralta, he's much better than league average, will always be 100. So if you are below 100 at OPS plus, you are a below average player. If you're above 100, you're better than that. And that means that Kyle Schwarber is 38% better than the average league hitter. That's a giant number. Right field, my man, Mookie Betts. And the little bit I put on Mookie Betts here is that he is the greatest 2-sport athlete alive. And if you guys don't know this, Mookie Betts is a fantastic bowler. And I saw a thing on the gram the other day that said Mookie Betts is currently working he's working to be a part of the World Bowling Tournament, like the World Series of Bowling. He wants to be a part of that. He's bowled many 300 games in his career as a bowler, and he has won many tournaments, celebrity tournaments, and beyond. Mookie Betts, greatest 2-sport athlete alive. He was, of course, the 2018 American League MVP, and in the 2 other seasons after that, he was the second in MVP voting, and that was in the American League and National League. So in 3 years, he won an MVP, and the next few years, he was runner-up for MVP. He's one of the greatest players in baseball. As we all know, Hall of Fame trajectory. Shortstops, we're loaded with them at Team USA. Tim Anderson, he was the 2019 AL batting champ. He's a stolen base threat. He's had 4 consecutive seasons of batting above 300 in a league where nobody bats 300. You might see a few more this year with the rule changes, but nobody in the past 4 years really was batting over 300. But Tim Anderson has done it consistently. He's amazing. It's going to be his first World Baseball Classic. Another shortstop, Trey Turner. Trey Day, first World Baseball Classic for him. He's a 2-time All-Star, 2021 batting champ, career .302 hitter, and a 2022 Silver Slugger. Not much more you got to say about Trey Day. The guy's a masher. He can stick it at third base. He's the man. Another first-timer for the World Baseball Classic at the shortstop position, Bobby Witt Jr. He's a man out of Kansas City. He was one of the best rookies in 2022. He's part of that young core in Kansas City, though they don't have a great record year in and year out. This is a team that's building towards something really special, as they did back in 2015, and he will likely play a utility role. He'll be backing up those guys, Tim Anderson and Trey Day. Second base, Jeff McNeil. He's going to replace Trevor Story, another shortstop who we had on this roster. Trevor Story initially wanted to play, but he had elbow surgery in January. He had to back out. Jeff McNeil's a high contact lefty, and he can play anywhere in the infield you need him. So he's a guy who you'll probably see in those late innings when you're up a couple runs and you're trying to play good defense, that kind of thing, and when you got to move guys in and out. Jeff McNeil, he's going to get a bunch of playing time. Another first timer, another guy who's on a building ball club in Baltimore. Great ball club coming up. Cedric Mullins, outfielder. I like to call him Ceddy Mull. In 2021, he became the first 30-30 player in Orioles history. That's 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. The first one to ever do it in Orioles history. I mean, you're talking a long, long history of great ball players there. He famously made his announcement that he was going to play in the Classic when he was mic'd up during the Little League Classic on the 21st of August, 2022. He will platoon with Trout in center field. And of course, with that 30 for 30 season, Ceddy Mull is a big stolen base threat. We're gonna get in this. Oh, one more position player I want to talk about. Kyle Tucker, outfielder. He's a guy. He is a guy he doesn't really get talked about. I mean, he does in big inner baseball circles and on like more in-depth podcasts, but he's not the guy. He's not a flashy guy. He's not a guy you're gonna put on the cover of a video game like Jazzy Chisholm. No, but Kyle Tucker is a freaking baller, and he does it year in and year out for the Astros, and he does it postseason and in postseason out for the Astros. This will be his first World Baseball Classic. He stole 25 bags, hit 30 dingers last year. He had 107 RBIs in 2022. The guy is straight rake. Moving on to the pitching staff, Adam Wainwright. He's going to make another appearance in the World Baseball Classic this year. Waino, how he still does it in his age 40 plus seasons now. I think he's going to be 41 this baseball season, major league season, and Waino's going to do it in the Classic for us. He's going to come up big like he always does, because that's just what Waino does. Lefty nasty Nestor Cortez from the Yankees. He's going to be pitching for the U.S. Team USA this year. He could have played in Cuba. He was actually born in Cuba, but he went to high school in Florida, and he just loves the USA. What more? I mean, how could you not be a lover of the USA when you play for the Bronx Bombers and you pitch for them? He had a breakout season in 2022, sported a 2.44 ERA. Hi, Miku. We're talking about Nasty Nestor. He was 8th in AL Cy Young last season, and he's, like I said, native of Cuba, but wanted to represent the USA. He's a great pitcher. He's a very intimidating force on the mound. He's got a great mustache. He looks like a New York City firefighter. He's just the best. Another pitcher. The first starter to commit for the USA team was right-handed pitcher Merrill Kelly. Miles Michaelis from the Cardinals is going to be dishing it out on towing the rubber for the USA. He's the 4th Cardinal on Team USA. Miles Michaelis, 4 Cardinals on Team USA. 3.29 ERA in 2022, and also an All-Star. First World Baseball Classic for him. Clayton Kershaw, and he's going to make another World Baseball Classic. He was on the 17 team. He's just a legend. 2.28 ERA still in 2022, still putting up fantastic numbers. He's one of the greatest pitchers of all time and the greatest pitcher of my generation. Lance Lynn's going to be pitching. Dylan Tate's going to be pitching. One more catcher I got to talk about, and this guy's another guy like Kyle Tucker who doesn't get the national love because he just isn't. He's just not the face that Major League Baseball wants to push. But Will Smith, he's one of the top backstops in all of baseball. He has a high leverage pedigree in his Dodgers career. He has an 856 OPS, and he's played in 38 postseason games in just 4 years in his young career. He's been in so many high leverage situations. So at the catcher's position, 2 new guys for Team USA, Real Muto and Will Smith. But those guys, they're the 2 best. They're the 2 best in baseball, I would argue. Bryce Harper was gonna play. He committed to play. Had to back out. It would have been amazing to see him and Trout play together for the first time on the same team after being 2 of the highest touted prospects coming up, 2 of the biggest names coming up, and their careers have been since the beginning. Their careers have been compared, and they've been on a trajectory, and both of them are just amazing. Just love watching them come up. But he had Tommy Johns on November 23rd, and he's going to miss the World Baseball Classic more than likely. I don't think you want to put him in there if you're the Phillies, not after making the World Series last year. I don't think you want to risk that. Other pitchers, Logan Webb from San Francisco, he's going to pitch. He was 11th in Cy Young in 2022. Ryan Presley's going to be in the bullpen. Another name for Houston. That team just has so many great players. He had 33 saves in 2022 to a 2.98 ERA, 11 scoreless innings, and he closed out the World Series in Game 6. Just a great pitcher. Nate Eovaldi from Texas, Nick Martinez from San Diego, Adam Ottavino, Daniel Bard is going to be pitching. First brewer that we're going to talk about today out of several, and the only brewer who's on the USA team, Devin Williams, the man. He announced on October 6th that he'd be pitching, and he was the first pitcher to commit to Team USA, and he will likely take a closer role. It'll be really, really cool to see Devin Williams if he could get in a closer role for Team USA ahead of the 2023 season. I don't think it gets much more high leverage than when you're representing the entire country. So if he can fare well in there, then I feel very even more so comfortable having Devin Williams as the Milwaukee Brewers closer in 2023. One guy I got to give a shout out to, because I know Eric loves this guy. Me and him passed this guy back and forth in fantasy baseball so much last year, and he's one of those names that just brings a smile to your face. Relief pitcher from Pittsburgh, David Bednar. He missed August and most of September with a back injury last season. He's a fastball-heavy pitcher who racks up a lot of swing and miss, and he is great if you just need some, like 3-4 points, couple points a week in fantasy. David Bednar's the man. Kyle Freeland's also going to be pitching, and Brady Singer. He committed in 2017 when he was a college ball player. So we talked about college ball players. Brady Singer for the Royals. He couldn't play because when he was in college, he was at the Florida Gators, and they made the College Baseball World Series. So he kind of was forced to commit to that over the World Baseball Classic in 2017. So with that, Team USA, I'll give you a quick summary of what I see there. It's amazing. The lineup is absolutely fantastic, but when we start talking about these other teams, we'll talk about how it fares in comparison. The pitching is very solid. It's not the best of the best in Major League Baseball. It's not the best of the best. We're not talking Jacob deGrom. We're not talking Garrett Cole. We're not talking some of those names. The lineup, you can't say much more about the lineup. It might be the best, but I think there'll be some interesting discussion when we get to some of these other teams here, because when you think you've heard it all, there's more. These other teams, there's so many more amazing talents in fantasy baseball rosters per se that you could talk about. But we'll start a little bit slow. The one name I want to talk about for the Great Britain team, the team that slugged it out and found a way. Another thing when we were talking at lunch at the Habitat for Humanity job site today was, man, Great Britain has a team, and they fought their way in. They're in it. Trace Thompson, a kid who had a breakout season for the Dodgers last year. Trace Thompson is going to be playing for Great Britain. He's the one name I want to talk about there. When it comes to Japan, of course, the one guy that we don't have, the greatest player in all of baseball, the greatest player alive, and the man who will likely go down as the greatest baseball player of all time, and I think Eric would second that. Shohei Ohtani is going to be playing for Japan. There will be no restrictions according to the Angels. Shohei is good to go, and to be full board, he's going to play his damn heart out for Team Japan, and I hope we get to play him. I hope we get to have Mike Trout in the batter's box against Shohei Ohtani throwing the rubber. Lars Nootbaar, a kid who had a fantastic season for St. Louis. He's one of their top young core players, center fielder for the St. Louis Cardinals. He'll be playing for Japan, and Seiya Suzuki will be playing right field for Japan. Chicago Cub, great fantasy guy too. I picked him up on a whim because he played his first season last year in fantasy, and my God, he was great for me. And they will have, of course, starter Yu Darvish. He's already been in the Baseball Classic in the past. The Yu Darvish will be the ace for the rotation. Moving on to the Netherlands. You wouldn't think it, but the Netherlands, a lot of great talent. This is the thing about this classic. A lot of great talent that you wouldn't expect to be on some of these rosters are, and it's just awesome. Jurickson Profar, he's currently a free agent. Played a bunch of ball with the Padres. Pretty solid ball player, utility man. He can basically play anywhere you want him in the field. He's a very hard-fought player. Good name. Jonathan Scope, you might remember him from his cup of coffee that he had with the Brewers. He's a Tiger still. He's been having some decent seasons over there for a team that hasn't had a whole lot of decent seasons lately. He'll be playing for the Netherlands. Xander Bogaerts, newly acquired piece by the San Diego Padres, shortstop. Just that's a hot name that they got over for the Netherlands. 1 second, gonna hit that music button. Andrelton Simmons, he's a guy. He's a name that makes me smile. He is a fantastic defender. Not a great offensive player. He could have been one of the best players in baseball if he would have been able to find his bat. And Didi Gregorius, another shortstop. He's going to be playing for the Netherlands. Moving on to Cuba, two great players from Cuba, and 2 great players from the White Sox. Yoan Moncada and Luis Robert will be playing for Cuba. So 2 hot names to look out for there. Italy, there's a lot more names on the Italy Ball Club than I thought that I would be talking about. But Max Stassi from the Angels is going to be catching out there. Nicky Lopez from Kansas City, another hot young rookie who had a really nice breakout campaign last season. Another Angel, David Fletcher, infielder. Sam Haggerty, he's my guy. He's from Seattle, and I just love those Seattle ball players. Here's Miku again making another appearance. What do you think about the Mariners and the Italian Ball Club, Miku? Another name from there, big bat, that the Italian Ball Club coming out quiet. Brandon Nimmo, a guy who just signed a big deal back with the Mets. Brandon Nimmo is going to be playing for Italy, and our second Brewer is making an appearance here, and a guy who we're going to see have some big league playing time this year with the Brewers. And we talked about him in our last episode when we talked about prospects. Sal Frelick is going to be playing for the Italian Ball Club. Look out for that. That's a lot of fun. Moving. Oh yeah, they also have Hassan. Oh, this is China, right? Hassan Kim and Tani. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is Korea. Moving on, 2 players from Korea that I want to talk about, or well, one from Korea and one that's going to be playing for the Korean Ball Club from St. Louis, Tommy Edman and Kim Ha-sung from San Diego. 2 players to talk about from the major leagues that will be playing for Korea. And now we're getting into some of these ball clubs that are just nasty, and we're talking about some staffs that rival the USA. So that will be the Mexican Ball Club. So this is just their staff alone. They have very solid pitching. Julio Arias from the Dodgers. They got Jose Urquidy. I mean, those are 2 guys, a lot of postseason, a lot of high leverage experience. Taijuan Walker, newly acquired by the Phillies. Patrick Sandoval from the Angels, a guy who had a fantastic campaign last year and threw a no-hitter last year, if I'm not mistaken. And Giovanni Gallegos, a lot of St. Louis Cardinals in the Classic. Giovanni Gallegos, a flamethrower from St. Louis. That is a very solid pitching staff that I would say is probably the 3rd best in the World Baseball Classic. They're going to have a catcher in Alejandro Kirk. He's a big boy from Toronto. The guy is a solid backstop, one of the best in the American League. I think he really made a name for himself last season. We're going to have another Brewer. And actually, we're going to talk about 2 from the Mexican Ball Club, one of them being Luis Arias, 3rd baseman, infielder, extraordinaire. Kid we love, young kid coming up. It's going to be really cool to see him playing for the Mexican Ball Club, and his brother, Ramon Urias. He did some time, had a cup of coffee with the Orioles, I believe, and in the past. He might still be in their farm system. But Luis Urias' brother and Luis are going to be playing together side by side for the Mexican unit. Look out for that. Rowdy Tellez has committed, our first baseman, to the Mexican Ball Club. So it's 4 Brewers now already. And yeah, Rowdy Tellez playing first base for the club. And then you got a masher, a kid who won Rookie of the Year, and a guy who was a postseason hero in Randy Arozarena is going to be playing the outfield for Mexico, as well as Alex Verdugo from Boston. So a lot of big names from the major leagues in the Mexican Ball Club. It's a scrappy team that is a nice unit, and it'll be fun to watch them play. Colombia has 2 nice names that we can talk about. From the Mets, Jose Quintana. He's a Brewers killer historically, so I know you guys know that name. And Gio Urshela from the Angels, a guy who's been bounced around a little bit last couple of years. Had a nice couple of years with the Yankees, went over to the Minnesota Twins, and is currently an Angel, and he'll be playing for the Colombian Ball Club this year. And now we are talking about a very solid lineup and a very solid team. And a team who's won the Classic before, and a team who made it to the championship against the United States in 2017. That would be Puerto Rico. They have four solid pitchers, five solid pitchers that we can talk about right away. Jose Barrios for Toronto, he's in the staff. Edwin Diaz, possibly he was named the greatest closer in baseball by MLB.com coming into the season. He had his famous Tommy Trumpet walk-up song last year. He had the greatest walk-up music in all of baseball last year. Edwin Diaz, solid bullpen piece for the Puerto Rico unit. Marcus Stroman from the Cubs. He had a fantastic. He was with the USA, or no, he was with Puerto Rico. He had a fantastic performance with Puerto Rico in the 17 Classic, and dominant, legendary performance that time in the Classic, and a guy who will likely have another breakout this year in the Classic. And another solid lineup we're talking about here that we're going to be going against, and that our good pitching staff, but not great pitching staff, is going to be going against. And you're talking Javi Baez from the Tigers, great hitter. We faced him for a long time when he was a Cub. Francisco Lindor, one of the greatest shortstops in all of baseball, one of the greatest shortstops alive. Atlanta Braves postseason hero Eddie Rosario in the outfield. And they got two badass catchers back there for Puerto Rico. Christian Vasquez from Minnesota. He's new to Minnesota. And Martin Maldonado, who played in Classic before. And he's going to be in for Houston. And really solid lineup for Puerto Rico. One that is going to give our pitching some trouble more than likely. What do you think, Freddie? That's right. And okay, and now it's just so cool to see where all these countries and where their talent comes from, and that's the beauty of baseball. Is it's much like America, where it's become a melting pot, and the greatness of America, much like baseball, is the fact that people from all around the world have been able to come here and achieve greatness, and now they get to do it and represent their native and countries and cultures that they want to represent, and they want to fly those colors, and they want to play ball, and it creates these epic fantasy lineups. And here's another one that we'll talk about: the country of Venezuela, and that, if you want to get political about it, that's a country that is going through a lot of hard times, and it's really cool that these players can come up and get out of that and live better lives and become millionaires and get their families out of poverty. So to get unpolitical, let's talk baseball. Catcher Salvador Perez from Salvi from the Kansas City Royals is going to be their backstop. He's played in the Classic before. Luis Arias, one of the greatest contact hitters in all of baseball, will be a utility man for the club. Miguel Cabrera, Jose Altuve, Gleyber Torres, Eugenio Suarez, Andres Jimenez, Miguel Rojas. That's an infield right there for you. Avi Garcia in the outfield, former Brewer. And this is the pitching staff that I think, if it's not the best, it's probably the second best pitching staff in the World Baseball Classic. And we're talking Martin Perez from the Texas Rangers, Pablo Lopez, newly acquired by the Twins, had a fantastic year, young kid, flamethrower coming up when he was with the Miami Marlins. Ranger Suarez from the Philadelphia Phillies, Jesus Luzardo, another Miami Marlin, Brusdar Graterol from the Dodgers, German Marquez from Colorado, and Luis Garcia, a guy who just lights it up for Houston, another pitcher who lights it up. So a fantastic, dominant pitching staff coming out of Venezuela. So look for them to go deep in this tournament. And next, we're going to talk, well, I'll throw in Israel, and then I'll give you who I think is probably the best team. Israel has two players, pretty awesome to think about. Jock Peterson from the Giants, Jocktober, famous for Jocktober. He'll be representing Israel, and also 38-year-old Kevin Pillar. He's not in Major League Baseball right now. He's actually got a minor league contract with the Dodgers. I didn't know he was still in baseball, but he'll be representing Israel. That'll be super cool for Israel. And now moving on, the last team that I'm going to talk about, last team that features major leaguers in the Classic this year. Definitely the best pitching and a lineup full of absolute studs. So let's quick talk lineup. Julio Rodriguez from my second favorite team, the Mariners. The guy tore up the home run derby, though he didn't win it for some reason because the rules are kind of funny. It's a tournament style. Julio Rodriguez, absolute baller in the outfield. Also, Juan Soto is going to be representing the Dominican Republic. Another guy, Hall of Fame trajectory. Second base, Jose Ramirez for Cleveland, one of the best hitters in all of baseball, year in and year out. A guy who should be talked about way more than he is. They got Vlad Guerrero at first base. You all know Vlad. He's going to hit home runs. Rafael Devers just signed big money back with the Boston Red Sox. He's going to be DHing for the Dominican Republic. They got Manny Machado. What an infield alone. Jose Ramirez, Rafi Devers, Vlad Guerrero, Manny Machado, and they got shortstop Jeremy Pena, who was the World Series MVP, Championship Series MVP in the AL last year. I think he won Rookie of the Year too for the AL. He did it all last year. He's a kid who's just becoming a huge name in baseball. They got Gary Sanchez behind the dish. And now let's talk this. Oh, they got Jose Siri from Tampa Bay in the outfield and Marcell Ozuna. That's bats. That's bats that will rival the U.S. lineup. I think the U.S. lineup might have the best. Dominican Republic, probably the second best. And now let's talk pitching. I think this is the best staff in all of baseball. They got Cy Young winner, Sandy Alcantara from the Florida Miami Marlins. It's been that long, and I still call them Florida Marlins sometime. Emmanuel Clase, young, absolute beast from Cleveland. They got Framber Valdez from Houston, another amazing pitcher from Houston. They got Christian Javier from the Astros. They got Hector Neris from Houston. In the bullpen, they got Johnny Cueto from Miami. They got Yimi Garcia from Toronto. If it's not the best pitching staff, it's the second best pitching staff in baseball. And one more to talk about, this guy right here, Freddie. You're not representing the U.S. You're representing the Dominican Republic. Freddie, fastball Freddie Peralta, representing the Dominican Republic in the World Baseball Classic. So I think that's counted five Brewers in the Baseball Classic this year. Just one. Devin Williams going to be for the USA. So, and there you have it. Sandy, Emmanuel, Framber, Christian Javier, Freddie Peralta, Johnny Cueto to back it up, Yimi Garcia, Hector Neris. They got so much talent. The Dominican Republic, absolutely loaded, absolutely awesome. So there you have it. That's the rosters for these teams. So when you break it down, I would have to say, I think the USA is going to win it again. I can't bet against my boys. I can't bet against the USA. I can't bet against Mike Trout. Are you crazy? It's Mike Trout. He's the team captain, Captain America. So no, I think the USA is topping it off. I wouldn't doubt it if it's USA Dominican Republic this year. I think that's going to be your final, and I think the USA is going to eke it out. I think you're going to see a lot of home runs from some of our big boppers. I think you're going to see Goldie come through. I think you're going to see Pete Alonso come through big time. Kyle Schwarber, Mookie Betts, are you kidding me? They can take this on. They can take on this pitching, and I think it'll be good. And I think Puerto Rico is going to go deep. I think Venezuela is going to go deep. I think those are other two teams that you're going to see in that Final Four. And I think you're going to see Japan go pretty deep as well. What do you think, Nico? What do you think, Freddie? What do you guys think? USA? USA? All right. So there you have it. That's the rosters for the World Baseball Classic. I plan on breaking it down more as it goes on because we're going to have that spring training time between me and Eric. We'll cover that spring training stuff that you need to hear about the news because it's going to be coming in like crazy. But I want to cover the World Baseball Classic a lot for you guys because I think it's going to be fantastic. I'd love for you guys to comment and talk about the Classic with me because let's grow this thing. Let's make it bigger than the Olympics. Let's make it the World Cup. Let's make it that big. Let's get these stadiums packed and let's see if we can get it to grow even bigger. Miku's going to be there. Freddie's going to be there. We'll be talking Classic. So with that, it's been a lot of fun talking about this with you, and I hope you guys tune into the World Baseball Classic. I hope you guys tune into the Miller Park Minute every day because it's the only podcast that brings you Brewers every single day in the morning. It's your cup of coffee in the morning. It's that first heater in the morning. If that's the kind of person you are, you'd be smoking those heaters. That it's your first thing in the morning. He's always there at 5:30 Central Time to drop you fresh content, and you'll be seeing more of me. We're planning some excellent stuff for you guys as the season approaches and as it goes, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We love talking to you guys. Miller Park Minute out. Butcher's Fresh Cuts out. As always, Soup pitched great. And Miku, Freddie, don't widen the plate. I mean, you widen the bases this year, guys. Don't ever widen the plate.
Thank you for watching the Miller Park Minute. Go Brewers!